Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Today
Today
is
is
Monday,
Monday,
October
October
21st,
21st,
and I'd
and
like
I'd
to
like to
call
call
this
this
meeting
meeting
to
to
order for
order
the
for the
Diversity,
Diversity,
Equity,
Equity,
Inclusion,
Inclusion,
and
and
Belonging
Belonging
Committee.
Committee.
We have
We have
Adiola
Adiola
with
with
us
us
remotely,
remotely, and
and the
the
first
first
item on the
item on the
agenda is
agenda
to
is to
review and
review and
act on the
act on the
minutes of
minutes
September
of September
9th.
9th.
So if
So if
everyone has
everyone
had a
has had a
chance to
chance to
review those
review those
minutes,
minutes,
I
I
just
just
need
need
a
a
motion to
motion to
approve
approve
Motion to approve.
and a
and a
second,
I
second,
second it.
and then we'll
and then
do
we'll do
roll
roll
call.
call.
Bindu?
Bindu?
Yes.
Cynthia,
Cynthia,
yes.
yes.
Holly, yes.
Luis, yes.
And
And
Adiola?
Adiola?
Adiola, yes.
Okay, so
Okay,
the
so the
meetings are
meetings are
approved.
approved.
The
The
next
next
item on the
item on the
agenda is
agenda
to
is to
discuss
discuss
some
some
old
old
business.
business.
So the
So the
first
first
item
item
is
is
planning for
planning
the
for the
community
community
forum on
forum on
supporting
supporting
conversations
conversations
surrounding school
surrounding school
shootings and
shootings and
acts of
acts of
violence.
violence.
So
So
I
I
know
know
Louise
Louise
and
and
Adiola
And
Adiola
Anushri.
and
and
Anushri, you
Anushri,
guys
you
were
guys
kind
were
of
kind of
working on
working
this
on this
forum.
forum.
Um,
Um,
I think
I think
Anushri
Anushri
is not going
is
to be
not
able
going
to
to be able
attend
to
the
attend
next
the
couple
next
of
couple of
meetings, so I
meetings,
don't know
so I
how
don't know how
that
that
factors
factors
in
in
to
to
planning
planning
for
for
the
the
event. But
event.
I'm
But I'm
assuming you
assuming
can
you
still
can
do
still do
that
that
off.
off.
Well, this is like an incredibly important topic to discuss. And given the significance of this issue, I want to propose that we could reconsider rescheduling it for a later date. With the holidays approaching, I think that a change in timing would allow us to approach this topic with the attention that it deserves. I'm not sure if we can do that or not. But
I, th- I think I
I
would
think I
want to
would
hear
hear
also from
also from
Adiola.
Adiola.
Sure. I have no problem with that. We actually didn't even have a chance to get together between this meeting and the last one. I know there's a lot going on, and we talked about not having the forum too close to the elections, and that would kind of be impossible at this point since we didn't plan. So yeah, I agree. Maybe we can talk about it more and shoot for a date in early next year, like for something first quarter. Maybe we can discuss having, because we did the last one we did, I think it was in February. So maybe we can discuss doing something um, either in March or February of next year.
I agree.
Okay.
I can discuss whatever we have so far if you guys want to know what's going on with the forum.
Sure.
Yes, that would be
Um,
great.
we met with Sarah Peck. She's the co-founder and director of United on Guns. It's a partisan, nonpartisan initiative of the Public Health Advocacy Institute at the Northeastern University School of Law. She's a great. And then for the objective, we want to explore the impact on like the marginalized communities and some preventative measures. Um, Given that we can't like speak on like school shootings per se, because that would be fall on a different category, different from our charge. Um, that's why we decided to like talk about it in that way. So we want to explore the differential impacts of mass shootings on various communities, on mental health, and the resources that the town has in for these events. For like speakers, we would like to have the superintendent, the chief of police, a mental health professional, and a guest speaker that could be Sarah Pack, and maybe have some testimonials from survivors of these horrific acts. We have not reached out to any of these stakeholders yet because there's no timing, and we are potentially changing the date. So as once we have a clearer picture, we would reach out to these stakeholders, and we are going to host it at the library as well.
Nice.
You guys have any questions?
Yeah, was this you and Anushri that met?
What was that? Sorry.
Was it you and Anushri who met? I just wasn't aware. wasn't aware of all of the great work you had put in. So I was just wondering if it was you and Nunushri who met.
Yes, we can take this conversation offline, and then we can discuss this if that's okay with you.
Okay.
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 Thank you for the great work.
It's been
And I apologize for some of the confusion tonight. I think we're having a little trouble with the sound, and so I think that's why we're having a little bit of trouble hearing and kind of taking a little longer. So for the community forum, we're deciding to move it to a further date so that we can just narrow down the topic a little bit better, more aligned with DEI, and then find out who the speakers are going to be and which direction we're going to go in.
correct.
Okay.
Louise, what was the NGO that Sarah's with?
Sarah Pack. Oh, sorry. United on Guns.
Okay. And we're planning for March.
Yes, I feel like that's a good timeline.
Is there a space on the, I know we have a drive. Is there a space that you stored the information on the drive so I can just look it up before the next time we have the subcommittee meeting?
I would have to update that. I have not been able to put that information in our drive.
Okay, awesome. All right.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is planning for the Shrewsbury Multicultural Festival, and I think at the last meeting, we were talking about possibly securing funds from the Cultural Council, so I wasn't sure how things were going with that.
We have great progress. Louise, me, and Taylor met a few times, and Pankaj was in one of the meetings too. Taylor wanted to update us. You can take it from here, Taylor. Could she hear me?
I don't know with the audio. It might be better if you guys just summarize.
We can hear you well.
Okay, I can't really hear you guys, so yeah, so Luis, Bindu and I have been meeting weekly up until last week. I was out of the office, getting our information and details together for the multicultural or potential multicultural festival next summer. We picked out tentative date and time that we want to clear with the recreation department to make sure they don't have anything like pre-planned, and have applied for a cultural council grant through the Shrewsbury Cultural Council to acquire some seed funding to help us stand up a bigger event than we had 2 years ago. We were hoping for it to be during the summer following our now hopefully annual Juneteenth and Pride celebration. So these would be more in July, beginning of August. I believe that was the time frame we landed on. And so basically we're just waiting to hear back about the Cultural Council grant, which should be in the next couple months. I know they're meeting at the first 2 weeks in November to decide funding allocations for the applications they got. And then from there, we can kind of dig more into the details of it. But we put together a tentative budget of what we would need to fund the event between staffing, equipment, to have a stage outside, more so just flooring to have a stage area and whatnot. So that's kind of where we're at with that. So once we know more about the funding that we have available, then we can go from there with planning or doing more outreach related to the event to get folks interested in either attending, vending, volunteering, and kind of the likes of that. So once we know more from the financial side, I think we'll be in good shape. So
we already identified different organizations that we would need to reach out, obviously, to see if they want to collaborate with us. And we have the Google form and the collaboration request letter already ready to be shared with potential collaborators.
And the tentative dates are 26th July or rain date 2nd August, both being Saturdays.
Okay, what was the date?
26th July and rain date is 2nd August. Do you guys have any questions about that? So we'll wait and watch, and then we'll need a lot of help with that because the subcommittee would need a lot of help. We all will have to pitch in. So we can go over that as time progresses.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Taylor.
Thanks, Taylor.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is to discuss and vote on the logo contest submission. So Anushri had made, designed the logo for us, and she sent out also an explanation why she chose the logo that she did. And I was wondering, did everybody get a chance to look at that? Adiola, were you able to see it?
Yes, the email with the logo, the peacock logo, like, was it a peacock feather? I think it was really nice.
Correct.
I did see that.
So our plan was to discuss it and possibly vote on it tonight. So I think that from previous conversations, we did have a question about why we chose the peacock feather. And so that's why we asked Anushri to write up why she wanted to choose that as the logo. I thought it was okay. I think we have some discussion within the group. So we wanted, I think, at this point to talk to Anushri again before we vote on it.
Can I have something to say about this?
Sure.
Because first of all, Anushri, I want to appreciate you and thank you for the hard work and creativity in developing the logo. It was a really nice logo. But I also want to emphasize how crucial it is for us to have a logo that not only represents our value, but also functions effectively across various mediums. Our logo is the face of our committee. I think it needs to visually capture the essence of DEIB, something that communicates this principle effectively. Like, first impressions are vital. A professional and polished logo can instill confidence and trust in our stakeholders. And then when we see our logo, we want it to be synonymous of our commitment to DEIB. And I think we should make it appealing to attract attention and spark interest in our initiatives. I also want us to keep in mind that the logo needs to maintain integrity across various formats. If it doesn't transfer well to print, it will lose its clarity and impact, leading to misinterpretation. And a logo that looks good in print reinforces our commitment again to quality and professionalism. I think it's important for our events, our marketing materials, if we have any, I don't think so, but reports or wherever our image is on display. It has to be versatile enough to be effective in different sizes, contexts, whether it's a banner, digital media, paper, etc. It has to look clear and recognizable. And I think that investing a little bit more time and effort into creating this logo, it's like both visually compelling and effective in all formats, can be good for our committee. Not saying that it was a bad logo. I just don't see how it resembles to our commitment to DIB. But I think we should have some guidelines on what we want as a committee and go from there in order for us to have a logo that represents DEIB.
Okay. So at this time, we are not going to vote on this submission. Is
Yes.
what we're going with?
I can share that when I was researching, there are enough examples online for the logos. and which could show hands with different skin color, if you will, drawn holding hands, people from different backgrounds holding hands, or it could be just 4 or 10 colors in circle, just showing that we are diverse, but we are one. Having a peacock is great. It's a national bird of a country or two, I don't know. But point is, if we represent animal, birds, instead we show human beings, which we are representing here, would be more well received, I'm thinking. But again, once again, I want us to think through, like Louis has very good points, that it becomes the face of the committee. And once when we are printing the banner, for example, it should have the clarity. It should not look like what we are representing is not shown through that logo. So it's important that we give a little bit more weight to it, even if we have to wait, and we appreciate, Anushri, you did doing this. We were stuck on this for a very long time, so it's moving in the right direction. Just need a little bit of tweaking, and we can see how we can make it impressive for all of us. Thank you.
And I would add that if our logo is something that is replicated on posters that are printed or on black and white, it needs to come through that way too. So we need to be conscientious of both color and black and white images. That makes sense.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is finding volunteers for the senior paper submissions for the month. And I think the best way to do this is I'm going to just make maybe a sign-up genius and send it out to you guys, and people can put in their names, and I'll put all the instructions in there, and then we don't have to keep talking about it every month, every meeting.
Or we can have people on rotation, and if they can't do it for a month, they can switch with someone.
Yeah.
Just by
We can do that too.
Yeah, that way it's just there.
Yeah.
The same rotation.
So I'll send out like a submission form, pick whichever dates you want, and then we'll. Okay. I think that was the last item that we had before setting next month's agenda. So I did want to bring a new business to the committee, which is possibly, and I think we discussed this a little bit between the two of us, between Louise and Bindu. We had talked about, well, I mentioned maybe doing a book club, right? And the reason why I thought this would be a good thing to think about is that part of our charge is facilitating discussions that focus on DEI. And I think that having like a forum every time for this, I think it becomes a bigger event versus like if I'm just sitting down drinking a cup of coffee and talking to you, I feel like I can be a little more open, and I think there's a need. I think people want language for how to discuss DEI because for a couple of different reasons, right? I was in a meeting recently, and we were talking about people who had recently moved to the U.S. And the person that was talking about people who recently moved to the U.S. was hesitant in saying immigrants because the person didn't want to seem like they were being, that there was a negative connotation. But immigrants is the proper term to describe somebody who moved to the country recently. And so I think people are looking for terminology, right? How do you... and I think it obviously comes from a good place, right? Like everybody's trying to be inclusive, and so I think adding this place for discussion, how do we refer to this, or how do we have diversity, of thought, right? I think that when we look around, we have a lot of diversity, right? But I think a harder thing to measure would be like inclusion or belonging, right? I think that's a little bit harder to achieve. And I read something recently that I thought was really interesting, and it said that diversity and inclusion doesn't happen from like a grand gesture or a political statement, right? It happens behind the scenes from breaking down barriers and biases. And I think we do that through conversations. We do that through identifying areas that we might be blind to, right? Another example that I heard was like if you're healthy, you don't know about a lot of different diseases, right? Because you're healthy, it's not part of your it's not a part of your reality. But so if you have never been in a group that's excluded or or has these experiences, it might be harder for you to have the same perspective, right? And so I'm proposing that we start a book club, maybe in partnership with the library, where we can have maybe like a monthly meeting where we can pick a book and just people can come and have discussions and we can learn, together.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to put it on the agenda so we can talk more about it next time.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
There are book clubs that you don't have to read and come. So it's welcome to everyone, and somebody can just, whoever is leading, if you will, can summarize it so that people don't feel left out. There could be people who don't want to read or not don't have the time, but they want to be present in that meeting.
Yes.
So we should make it a point to let people know that it is open even if you didn't read the book.
Right. So I think we can add it to next month's agenda, and then we can figure out, like, hammer out these details, right? Like, how often are we going to meet?
Correct.
How do we pick the books? Like, all of these details that we have to come up with, okay? So we'll add that to next month's agenda.
I would like to make a suggestion
Sure.
for our next meeting. I think that it's important for us to communicate as a committee, and I think that having structure and goals and objective is going to help us organize ourselves into forums like this and activities like this. So I would like to propose that we have a workshop for our next meeting, that we can sit down around a table and we can just talk without having it being televised. It will still be an open meeting and anyone can join in, a public meeting, sorry, anyone can join in, but it will be a smaller one, I would say. And we can talk about our goals for a year, what we want to do as a committee, what we want to achieve. And we can take it from there and also organize our events, our forums, our workshops that we want to do, and that will give us a clearer picture of what we are doing, and also the residents will see what we are doing and how we are maintaining our commitment to the committee.
This is going to be an in-person.
The workshop?
I think
Yeah,
people
it's
can.
usually after our regular meeting. That's how we usually do it.
And the next one is
Yeah, and our next meeting falls on Veterans Day, so we also have to move it off a week probably. So that's going to put us
18th.
on the 18th, right? November 18th. So I will email Taylor. Or
We have
ask
to do it on
him.
Monday only, right?
Usually.
The 18th.
Okay. So
have
for the
a
next
question.
meeting, we're going to talk about the book club. We're going to maybe
Is that something that we'd
talk
have
about
to kind of,
planning for the multicultural festival, because that's still going. And we still have the logo contest. Okay.
can you guys hear me?
Hold on one second, Adiola.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh, hi. Is for the workshop, is that something, so if we're planning for the year, is that something that should take place more of kind of a beginning of the year? That's my first question. Then my second question, is that something that we need to vote on as a committee? And kind of, or even instead of having a workshop for the next meeting, planning maybe taking a vote if that's something that everybody wants, and then setting up what we're going to talk about at the workshop. And then that would probably, I mean, the way I'm seeing it is if we're doing a workshop, I like that idea of like workshop strategy, having a strategy meeting. But with that, we have our kind of things we're already working on that we've kind of already, that will take us up until at least next year. So would this workshop include other things? I'm a little bit, should we just have another, add this to the agenda, planning a workshop, or or strategizing around the workshop? And is this something that we'd want to vote on to say when it's going to take place or how it's going to take place?
So just for clarification for me, a workshop would just be for the committee. It would just be a committee organizing meeting, not a public event.
It would have to be a public meeting.
Well, yes, but it's not, we're not hosting a content-driven gathering. It's a public meeting where the committee, I just want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly, where the committee would talk about its structuring goals for the coming year.
So what I remember from last time is we did the regular meeting, and when that was done, we did our own meeting, which was not publicized, which was like a professional development kind of thing. So I don't know if we're doing the same thing. I need a little bit of clarity too.
That meeting is posted, though. You
Go
have to
ahead.
post it no matter what.
Taylor, go ahead.
You have to post the meeting no matter what.
Yeah.
Would it have to be televised as well, Taylor?
No.
Okay.
And
would
I
it
think
be
sorry,
more
Angela, I thought
professional? Oh, sorry. I was going to say, would this be something more so professional development, or is it a planning or strategizing? Because I'm under the impression that we do know what we're kind of planning for. So are we adding to it, or is this something where we want to come together and improve on communication? So those are the kinds of things instead of just having a workshop or a forum next meeting, I want us to be clear of what we're actually coming to do. So maybe we should put it on the agenda item for the next meeting to strategize on if it's going to be a workshop, is it professional development, and what are the goals that we want to accomplish and why.
So I think if I understand, we are just talking about communication because we have events, right? We have the Juneteenth event already, we have the Pride event, and then we have a multicultural festival that's being planned. So we have those things. Then we have a forum, right? And then possibly another thing that we're adding on. So I think we have an agenda already. I think we're just trying to communicate better. Is that correct?
Correct, and organize ourselves because, for example, you were saying, Cinta, you want to like break the barrier on like what is DEIB in town, and obviously we need like an objective on how we're going to break that barrier. So it will be good for us to strategize on how we can do it. For example, hosting forums on inclusive language, hosting forums on like what is DEIB, and actually forge a direction for the committee and for the goals. Because I understand that we already have events, but I want to make sure that we are doing what the charge is actually telling us to do with this workshop. So it's basically us talking about how we can do it as a committee. Does that make sense?
Does that answer your question, Adiola?
Okay, so just kind of looking at the charge. That might actually be a good idea. Looking at the charge, especially because we do have Luis and Anushree as our new members, going over it, seeing how we all kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Luis, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm trying to understand what you're saying by kind of talking it back or trying to wrap my mind around what I'm hearing. So how I'm taking it is re-looking at the charge, right? Making sure we all understand it, we're all on the same page about it, and then from that, planning and organizing events based on the charge and making sure, like, kind of a revalidation of here we are as a DEIB, here's what our goals are, and making sure we're putting out content and organizing events that align with our charge. Is that
Yes. Yes.
correct? Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Now, is that something that we think we're going to be doing routinely? Because again, should we have something like that maybe fresh at the end of a season or a calendar year? Or those are the kinds of things I'm thinking too. Are we just gonna, whenever we say we want to reorganize or restructure, can we just do that? I just want to make sure also we're abiding by any kind of law or gathering law, meeting law, and just doing it in the right order as well.
I think that we can discuss this on our next meeting, whether we want it every 3 months, every 6 months, or whenever we restructure. But I feel like we should initiate this first step first and see where we're all are, and see how can we, I don't know, help each other, I guess.
Yeah, I think the workshop would be a good opportunity to do that. Like nail down all these details about. All right, anybody has any other new business that they'd like to discuss right now? So if no, oh, sorry, Adiola, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna add, because as you were speaking of the book club, I was thinking February, I believe, yeah, last February, we wanted to kind of get together and do something with the library for Black History Month, but it was kind of late and we were juggling a lot. So I'm thinking that might be a good idea, like combine the book club with the library, and maybe we can meet sometime during February and have a, even maybe somebody come in, and we can work with the library, because I know they have a lot of people that come in during that time of year to tie in a Black History Month related book and DEI related conversation, especially around what you were talking about with dialogue and what language to use, how to have these uncomfortable conversations. And that might be something we can tie into Black History Month as well, in addition to other book club ideas that you have. But Black History Month specifically in February, it might be a good idea to do a Black History Month related book.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're starting the planning early enough now that we can kind of get everything going on time.
Exactly.
All right. So if no other new business, then I just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And then we'll do roll call.
Bindu, yes.
Cynthia, yes.
Holly, yes.
Luis, yes.
Adiola, yes.
Adiola, yes. All right. So we are adjourned.
She's going.
Okay. I think now
You wanna talk
she
to
might be
her?
able to hear us.
Adiola?
Adiola's
Yes.
still on.
Yeah.
I can.
Hold on.
Do you need?
Hold on.
Should I get off?